Hello, my name is Max Gonzalez. I also go by my graffiti name, Gems. I'm a local muralist, printmaker, painter, much more. But that's all just to say I'm an artist. One of the types of art that I do is graffiti art. So that's just the letters of graffiti, the different styles of wheat pasting, stencils, all of that. And I'm going to teach you guys how to actually make some graffiti letters. So we'll go over that first. And then we're also going to go over how to make wheat paste and then how to paste onto a board or any other surface. So yeah, we'll go over how to actually make the letters first and cut them out and then apply them to this wood panel. Although we're doing graffiti art, that doesn't mean I'm encouraging you guys to do anything illegal. Graffiti art does not have to be illegal. You can learn the techniques behind it, you can learn the styles, you can learn all of it and learn a really cool art practice without ever having to do anything illegal or apply it illegally. You can get commissions jobs, there's legal walls, there's all kinds of things to do, and I'm going to teach you that without ever having to break the law. So the first thing we're going to do is actually learn how to create graffiti letters. It's very similar to bubble letters. I'm sure you've seen styles like this before. At its core, what graffiti is a form of typography. All it means is it has to do with letters and how to make letters look good. Just like any other sort of typography, there are alphabets. You don't have to stick to a single alphabet, but I'm going to give you guys these alphabets so that if you want to use them as references, you can do that. So I'm just going to give you some examples of how you might do this. Let's say we wanted to do the word frog. What we could do is grab some letters from the sheet here and start writing them out. So I'm going to start with the F. And like I said, this is very similar to bubble letters, especially this lowercase font I have here. You do not have to stick exactly to the same letters. You can make them slightly different. In the case of this O, instead of just doing that single mark down the middle, I'm going to give it a smiley face. So our last letter is G. One thing you probably noticed is that I'm actually having the letters overlap a good amount. That's something that is really signature to graffiti art and graffiti art styles, is that your letters will overlap. So if you want to give it that classic graffiti style, let the letters overlap. So let's use our next alphabet. Our next word will be jump. You don't have to do this on the same paper. I'm just doing that to save some paper instead of having to use new ones each time, because we're going to cut these letters out. So feel free to use one sheet, or if you want to use two sheets, different color sheets, you can do that as well. And if you notice, all I'm doing is just taking the letter from the alphabet and putting it next to each other to form words. And if you can't think of words to use, you can use your own name. You can think of nicknames, you can do your friends' names, or just any object or thing. I'm just doing random things. Jump, frog. Our next word, just to go with that same theme, will be leap. So let's grab our L. Like I said, graffiti has a lot to do with letters, but that doesn't mean you have to only stick to letters. I use a lot of wizards and those types of characters in my work, so you can use characters. It's just that at its core, graffiti mainly has to do with letters. One thing I'm really trying to keep in mind on these is I'm trying to make all the letters the same size, same distance apart from each other, and that just makes them look consistent. So now that we have all those letters drawn, We just need to cut them out. When I cut out my letters, I like to give them a little bit of a border. And the fun thing with this is that instead of pasting this all together, we're cutting them out individually. So you can paste them wherever you like on the sheet or the board or whatever you're pasting it to. So we have all of our words cut out. You don't have to stick to just these alphabets here. You can use different styles. If you want to just use one alphabet, you can. And you can do as many of these as you like. In a way, think of them as stickers. So make what you like. Even if you want to, you can make some characters. It doesn't just have to be words. So now that we have these cut out, we just need to make our wheat paste. That'll consist of flour, water, salt. We'll also need a pot, mixing bowl, a measuring cup, and a tablespoon. Our first step will be to measure out 1 cup of water. This is going to go on the stovetop first, so we're going to boil this, but I'm just mixing the ingredients first. We'll also need 4 tablespoons of flour. So this is going to go into our mixing bowl. And with these measurements, it doesn't need to be entirely precise, just because a lot of wheat paste can depend on a lot of different factors with water, your flour, and how pasty you actually want it to be. This is a really simple formula. You can always add extra things to it. I've added wood glue to mine to help with the strength. I've seen people add Elmer's glue. You can add all kinds of stuff, but this should work good. So we have our 4 tablespoons of flour. With this part of it, you just slowly add in some water until you get a mushy consistency. So just start off very little bit and just slowly add in more water. It should be somewhere around the consistency of yogurt. So you don't want it entirely to be a liquid, but you don't want solid chunks. The whole idea is that we're mixing this first so that once we get the pot onto a boil, we'll mix that into that pot, and we don't want the flour to clump up all at once. So we need it in this somewhat yogurty consistency so it can dissolve equally. Stir this as much as you can. Any clumps you see in there, try to break them up. It might take about 5 minutes of stirring to get this really where you want it. So you're going to want to have your pot on a medium-high flame. As soon as you start to see it simmer, as soon as you start to see some bubbles come up, you're going to add in this mixture. You can then start stirring it. Make sure you stir in the bottom, stir as much as you can. And you're going to turn off the heat. And you really want to make sure you get everything from the bottom. You don't want it to sit. Keep stirring. I would say stir for an additional 5 minutes. And I'm actually going to add in a little bit of salt to the mixture. It's really easy to burn this stuff or to get it to clump up too much. So stirring as much as you can will help. There will be some clumps in here, so just smash them out as you can. And then you don't want to actually use this paste until it's fully cooled down. So I'm going to keep stirring for about another 5 minutes, try to get as many lumps as I can, and then I'll use the paste once it's cooled. So here is our finished wheat paste. I've let it cool to a room temperature. There are still a few lumps in here. You're never going to get a perfect wheat paste, but when you're brushing it on, you most likely won't pick up the lumps. Or if there are lumps on there, you can pick them out. Yeah, but if you notice, it's a very gluey consistency, almost like a Elmer's glue. Yeah, we're ready to go. Here's my board that I'm going to be pasting everything onto. It can really be any sort of surface. The nice thing about wheat paste is that it can be for indoor or outdoor use. It is entirely organic, so it will break down over time. That's why I added salt in there, because naturally this is food to animals, even when it's dried. So if you put the salt in there, it'll help preserve it, it'll stop it from molding, and animals really only go after it once it starts to get some mold, because I guess they realize, oh, that is food. So for indoor use, it'll definitely last a lot longer. With a brush, just get a good amount on there. Use any kind of brush you like, and definitely a brush that you're willing to get a little bit messy. Don't use your nicest brush you have. And you want to apply a pretty good amount, a liberal amount on there. I'm actually going to go over some stuff I already did. So if you notice, I put one layer first, and then I'm going to put down a second layer on top. When I was making my letters, I actually did it with a alcohol-based marker. I would suggest not using any water-based markers or water-based paint pens. So if you can, try to stick to alcohol or oil-based. So a Sharpie would be perfect. It's just that when you apply this, and if it's water-based, you can accidentally reactivate the color and it might spread and smudge around. So I'm going to do my next word. And one other way to do this, instead of just doing 2 layers, you can do 3. So what I'll do is on the back side of this, is I'll lay down some paste. And the whole idea is that what you're trying to do is get the paste to go through the paper, to the back side of the paper, and then to stick to the wood where you have more glue. So if you add some to the back of this, it's already helping spread through. And it doesn't really hurt to put too much paste on there. It'll definitely increase the drying time. But the most important part is that you get it nice and flat and really push it through, and you'll start to see that it's somewhat see-through. And once you see that it's a little see-through and you can actually see underneath, you know you have a good amount of paste in there because it's made the paper really wet. We'll do our last one here. It is best to use some thinner papers, like a newsprint or even a printer paper, like office paper. So the thinner the paper, the better, because like I said, you really want the paste to soak through there. If it is a thicker paper, it'll work. It just might not hold as well, or you might need to just apply a whole bunch of wheat paste. Cool. So that is that. Like I said, I already had some on here that were previously done, like these guys right here. So that'll be what it looks like when it's done. You can actually see right now these are a little bit faded looking almost, and that's just because they're wet. So they'll dry normally, but that's our finished product. Thanks for checking this out. Again, this is Max Gonzalez. I'm glad you got to learn about graffiti art. And like I mentioned before, graffiti art is a fun medium that is not only illegal. You can make murals out of it, you can make art out of it, and yeah, it's really just about creative freedom and the ability to make some art out of a name, your nickname, or your friend's name. So have fun with it, guys.